Walk into any health food store in America today, and quinoa is inescapable, stacked in bags labeled ancient grain, complete protein, superfood, and gluten-free wonder. U.S. imports of this Andean seed ballooned from 7.7 million pounds in 2007 to over 69 million by 2023, a trajectory that tracks almost perfectly with the rise of wellness culture rather than with any new scientific discovery. The question worth asking seriously is whether the nutritional reality behind quinoa justifies this extraordinary commercial ascent, or whether we are largely paying a premium for a food that has been dressed up in marketing language that outpaces the evidence. The nutritional profile of quinoa is genuinely respectable, and honesty requires saying so. A cooked cup provides 8 grams of protein containing all 9 essential amino acids, a rarity among plant foods that earns the complete protein designation legitimately. It contains 5 grams of fiber, a meaningful mineral load including manganese, magnesium, iron, and folate, and a glycemic index low enough to make it a sensible choice for people managing blood sugar. These are not manufactured talking points. They reflect real nutritional value that distinguishes quinoa from refined grain alternatives, but nutritional epidemiologists who study food patterns rather than individual nutrients tend to offer a more measured perspective. Complete protein from quinoa at 8 grams per cup is nutritionally significant, but it doesn't stack up against animal sources in terms of total protein density or amino acid bioavailability. Comparing quinoa's protein favorably to chicken or eggs, which happens routinely in wellness content, requires a selective reading of the data. Compared to other grains and most plant proteins, quinoa is excellent. Compared to the broadest array of protein sources, it is one option among many and not a replacement for animal-derived protein in terms of anabolic efficiency or absorption rates. The saponin issue, while easily resolved by rinsing, is worth understanding rather than hand-waving. Saponins are bitter compounds coating the outer layer of quinoa that serve as a natural pest deterrent. Most commercial quinoa is pre-rinsed, but inadequately processed batches, including some sold in bulk bins, retain enough saponin to cause digestive upset and a distinctly soapy taste. A 60-second cold water rinse in a fine mesh strainer eliminates this problem, but consumers rarely know they need to do it. Then there is the ethical dimension that the quinoa boom quietly set in motion. When Western demand drove Bolivian and Peruvian quinoa prices dramatically upward, the traditional staple food of Andean indigenous communities became unaffordable for the people who had cultivated it for centuries. The quinoa crisis of the early 2010s was documented by journalists and researchers as a case study in how global health food trends can inadvertently harm the source communities they romanticize. The situation has since stabilized as production expanded, but the episode exposed how disconnected wellness consumption tends to be from its supply chain consequences. Fair trade certification matters here, and most consumers paying premium prices for quinoa have never checked whether the label on their bag reflects anything about how the farmers were compensated. The carbon footprint of shipping quinoa internationally, primarily from South America, is also meaningfully larger than purchasing locally grown grains like farro, buckwheat, or barley, which offer comparable nutritional profiles without the intercontinental logistics. Quinoa is a nutritionally solid food, but it is not the miracle its marketing promises, and the gap between the hype and the reality costs both consumers and Andean communities more than it should.